LinkedIn, even TikTok and Snapchat these days. Just make sure you're pushing as much content as you can there as a company, and that's the best way to raise traction.
Hey guys, welcome to the UpNext podcast, where we are interviewing teen entrepreneurs that are making it big time in the startup world. We are asking the questions we know you want to hear. UpNext is an app made for teens where anyone can join or build a real life startup. Okay, we have Rishabh Java here today, age 18, from the United Arab Emirates. He is the co-founder and chief tangler at Tangled, which is the world's first gamified peer learning platform, making e-learning courses and training engaging, as well as the founder and CTO of ACES, a major upcoming neuroscience startup. Rishabh has been building and creating and just doing his thing since he was 7 years old, so I'm sure that he has a lot of words of wisdom to pass on to us. Is there anything you'd like to add? Anything I missed?
No, I think we're good as a pretty comprehensive introduction. Thank you for that.
Sure thing. I mean, you did it all. I only said it, so I'm not the impressive one here. So let's first talk about Tangled. How did you know your idea would work?
Okay, so that's a good question. I think it was the way we got into actually building Tangled was the reason that we knew that it would work. Now, me and the other co-founders, we all were a part of the Indian education system, and we knew its shortcomings. We knew that in school we didn't have the creative independence to explore things apart from what they were teaching us, and we were very constrained by firstly the time and secondly the system. And so we knew that we needed another platform where we could learn things that normally aren't taught to us in school. And I know there were a lot of other platforms like Udemy, Coursera, but they all had their shortcomings. We needed a platform that could be built by the youth for the youth and powered by them as well. And that's how Tangy came into being.
Well, build by the youth for the youth is totally down UpNext's lane, and we love that you're doing that. I think that only young people will have the mindset to know what young people want to see. So who do you consider your first mentor, and what did they help you go through?
I think so. There's a report. There is an entrepreneur. His name is Philip Stoughton. He's a writer for Forbes, and he also runs his own company. It's called Scoop Media, I believe. And he's someone who's been an inspiration, like a role model from quite a young age. And he kind of got me started with building my personal profile, my portfolio. I was working on all these projects at the time, 3D printing and electronics projects. But they were all over the place. They were scattered, and it would just be me going to competitions with them. But he sort of taught me how to use social media to leverage the work I was doing. At the same time, build a good portfolio around that. So yeah, he's like my first go-to mentor. Yeah.
That sounds like a pretty impressive mentor. I think I've heard of Scoop, which is it's a big deal. How much time did it take for you to build the product that you launched?
So Tangled, this is specific to Tangled, right? Not Aces right now.
I mean,
So
you can, whichever. You can talk about both.
Okay, so I think Tangled is still being made. It is growing even as we speak. Technically, it has been it started just last year in June when during the pandemic I taught about 116 and 800 students team on a weekend, and then we thought, what, there's a market for what we plan to do. Let's start a platform around it, and we started building it back then. We built a proof of concept, a simple website, and we got some really good traction on it in the first few months. And then in November, we sort of calmed things down. We're like, let's hold on to getting students, getting instructors, and just rebuild what we are doing. Let's break it all down and rebuild the platform from scratch based on whatever we learned from, say, August to November. And that's what's going on right now. All the best features that we feel an educational platform needs, we're putting it into Tangle. You have discussion forums, leaderboards, you know, you have live classes. It's completely gamified. There's a lot of different aspects to it, and they're all being built as we speak. But with ACES, it was a much, much longer journey. It started off in 2016, and I think we'll be completing, per se, our fifth year in November this year. And with ACES, it's been like a complete roller coaster where we started off by building mind control toys, then we shifted our focus to mind control computer games. Then we decided to move away from toys and games, which were intended for children with ADHD, and we moved on to the more corporate sector where we came out with these headphones that could tell you exactly when is the best time for you in your day to work and how focused you'd be during that time. But we had like constraints with the budget, so we've gone back to mind control games with certain modifications, and soon I think probably in like a month or two we'll actually be making our first sales. It's in testing out there product right now. So it's been a very long journey, 5 months with continuous points where we pivoted and redefined what we're doing, changed our vision and direction.
Well, neuroscience already sounds like it's gonna be a long journey, like the moment you start. Like, this sounds like really serious stuff. I mean, mind control games, that sounds like wizardry. It sounds like something that doesn't really happen. So it's amazing that it's becoming a reality, and the fact that it's helping people with ADHD. I mean, that's something that a lot of people forget, that it's a thing that people deal with like on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And how much money was needed to build your first version of either platforms, both platforms, and what would you recommend to those who don't have a way to fund themselves?
Okay. Now, with both of my startups, we for the most part have either done like crowdfunding, or we funded it ourselves, like literally to a certain extent out of our own pocket. With ACES, I would say for the first prototype, I probably spent just a couple hundred, like $100 or $200 at max to get like a working prototype of the first computer game and the first toy. And then what we did was we took it to competitions and we pitched it, won prize money, used it to continue building the product, and then we started a crowdfunding campaign. And I think in about 3 weeks, we raised what we intended to. It wasn't as much; it was about $5,000, and we were able to get as much in about 3 weeks, and that gave us the runway for a few more months. And then again, it was competitions with Tangled as well. I think from last year, what we've been doing is we've been participating in hackathons, and there are quite a few big hackathons in the region, in the MENA region. So we attend them, we build a project for them, and we've been fortunate enough to win most of them. So whatever we win there goes directly into building the product. I think so far we've spent a couple $1,000s on Tangle because uh, web services and hosting and all of that not been cheap for us. So, uh, but all of it has been funded through competitions and prize money from them. Oh, and we also organized a few events. We organized hackathons. We organized them, but from all the experience of participating in them, and and for the hackathon we got sponsors, and sponsors brought in some money, which first we sponsored the prizes. There were about $2,000 in prizes, and then the rest of it was something we used to continue building. Yeah, and yeah.
This is probably the coolest way that I've heard of raising money. Like, hackathons are, I mean, it's still a thing, and there's prize money and everything, but it's usually like a hobby for people, and using the hobby to build and make sure that the business is afloat is just a really creative way of enjoying yourself and getting that funding. So that's really great.
Thank you.
How did you get those first users for, I'm going to say Tangled on this one, because I'm guessing ACES is still like in the works?
Yeah. ACES is still in, I would say, the early testing phases. With Tangle, though, so I feel this is like a very creative approach. Now, firstly, I did have all the students that I had taught earlier that year during the pandemic. I just graduated high school, and I didn't really have anything to do because of the lockdown. So I started teaching students from my school robotics and innovation on Saturdays. and I had around 160 students then. Then I tied up with the governmental organization, and I had about 900 students after that. So we had that user base that we could go back to when our platform was ready. But we did do something very creative. So, like I said, we organized a hackathon with a pretty good prize money. I think we had about $2,000 in prizes, and we told all the students who wanted to participate that we need a contact person from your school for you to be able to participate in the hackathon. So they came for the hackathon. We asked them all to make a Tangled ID, so we get them on the mailing list. Then after the hackathon, we reached out to the schools that they represented, and we told them your students participated in the hackathon. They really enjoyed it. We have a lot more to offer. Allow us to conduct a workshop for your students. You conduct a workshop in most cases because it's a young instructor. The children like the energy. They sign up for and they like it. And then we tell the school, you know what, this bunch of like 30 to 60 students really enjoyed it. Why not have all your students on the platform? And that's been a strategy along for growing our user base. But to get and this is important, but to get the initial users on um, for the competition, this was a very challenging part. But that's where I feel the power of social media came in. We It was really important, and actually I would recommend this to any young entrepreneur. Whatever you're starting out, make sure you're actively using all of your socials, be it Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, even TikTok and Snapchat these days. Just make sure you're pushing as much content as you can there as a company. And that's the best way to raise traction. If you're providing value through there, then they follow. And then when you actually put out an event with exciting prizes or something like that, then you're able to get those um, registrations.
Yeah, social media is something that, it's always there, and why not use it if you're already on it most of your day? And the whole hackathon thing, I think, is just really original and so smart to take advantage of the fact that you know what you're doing, and like, just let me show everyone that it isn't as hard as they think. And just having that mindset and showing other people that they can have the same mindset, I think, is something that not a lot of people experience, especially at a young age.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's actually the idea behind Tangle as well. For young people to show others what techniques or strategies they're using to learn those skills. Like a 30 to 40-year-old man who's learned the same thing 30 years ago, he won't be able to explain it as well. Won't be able to explain it as well as someone who's just very recently been in the same learning situation. And that's why when we were able to do something just a year within the same year, we were able to share that so much more effectively than someone who done it like a long while ago.
Yeah, it's, people learn these things at different stages in time, and times pass. I mean, the way people learn things shouldn't stay the same if the rest of the world is changing. So, what advantage do you feel does Gen Z have, and how can they use that advantage to build their own startup?
Social media, 100%. We're also connected. We have a like say I have about 500 followers on Instagram. I put out a post or like a story, I'm gonna get at least 100 to 200 viewers on it. So that's me sharing a message, 100 to 200 viewers with almost little to no effort. Bring in four other friends, you have an audience of 1,000 or probably more than that if your friends are popular. That you can just put. It literally takes no effort. In olden days, if you wanted to reach out to like 1,000 people, I have no idea how would you even do that, but like with no funds. But here it's absolutely free. You're literally paying nothing for it. All you've got to do is have some value that you're giving out of the post or the video or whatever you're posting there, and just leave it to the power of internet and not social media to circulate the message you are trying to share. And I feel it's a completely unfair advantage that we have.
Yeah, it's something that a lot of people just use as like a hobby or out of boredom, and they don't actually realize that they have this very powerful platform that they can take advantage of and like tell people things this is where people will listen. Like, if anywhere, this would be the best place to start. Yeah. So you've been building since you were 7. Show everyone the prosthetic arm. I want to see it.
Yes, there.
Okay, that's just an example. Like, that's a beginning. So I'm sure that you have learned a lot along the way. What is one mistake that you would avoid?
That's a good question. One mistake that I would avoid. So I would say, okay, so something I wish I wouldn't have feared while I was going through this whole learning journey of building things would be doubting myself when it came to starting a project. So like the best way to learn whenever you're working with any of these things, actually, best way to learn anything, forget electronics, 3D printing, is to actually get into a project, try building it, fail as you're doing so, learn from your mistakes, pick up and go ahead, right? But I feel many a times while before taking on a project, even if it was the prosthetic or the humanoid or something like that, I'd hesitate. I would think, what if I'm not able to build this? What if I don't have the skills that I need? But or else I just imagine it to be too complicated and stop myself. So something that I would tell the younger me is just don't fear. Break down whatever you're doing into the simplest components you can, and start from there, going one step at a time, building it the best you can, and the end product, the end goal will be satisfactory for sure. So just don't second on myself.
Yeah. And no rush.
Yeah, no rush. That's very important too. You don't need to build the next big thing in a day or a week. It's gonna take time.
Yeah, and it's okay that it takes time. Yeah, you learn from every step. That's something that a lot of people sometimes forget, and they're like, why isn't it working already? It's been a week, and it's like, no, that's not right.
Yeah, I think that's something I've really picked up, even with Tangled specifically, because I was expecting that we put this platform out there and we're gonna blow up. We're gonna be the next Facebook in a month, and I'm like, oh no. It's taken all of these startups a very long time to get where they are, and it is all. These aren't short sprints; these are long distance marathons, and I keep telling my team this as well. That guys, I know we're gonna have downfalls, we're gonna have tough times, but it is a responsibility because we've started this something that's bigger than ourselves to keep at it. And, yeah, keep going on building.
Yeah, these things take time, and also those people that have built things and then Facebook, Instagram, whatever, it took them a while too. I mean, we heard about them and then we think that it happened overnight, but that's not the case ever. So you are the co-founder of Tangled, so you have someone that works alongside you.
Yeah, I have 3 other co-founders. Yes.
Oh, that's nice. So what would be 3 traits that you look for in a co-founder that you work with?
Okay. This is generally a tough question. Now it depends what role do I plan to play in what role do I have in mind with the project. So like for example, with Aces, it was I knew I was gonna wear the technical hat. I would have to build the circuits for the headphones, or even work on the API for the game or something like that. So in that case, I would be looking for someone who's really good at, say, marketing. That's a skill that I really need them to have. Then I'd want someone who's outspoken. He's good at communication. Um, and what's the third thing? Uh, I'm just thinking about all the co-founders that I work with and what skills do they.
And who's the best?
Yeah, I think energy. They need to have energy. I really want them to be as excited about what we are doing as I am, because only then they'd be able to put in the same amount of time and have the same level of dedication. And so yeah. To sum up, if I'm playing the technical hat, then I need them to be good at marketing and handling the financial side of things. Or else, if I'm doing that, then someone who's specifically technically minded for that project, then yeah, they need to be good at communication and need to have a lot of energy.
Yeah, so someone who weighs you out, someone who does what you don't do, and also the fact that you can talk about what you're doing and he'll be just as excited as you are. I mean, you don't want someone that's like, yeah, sure. So you want someone that's excited about what they're doing.
What we're doing.
Right. I mean, it's hard as it is, so let's have energy about it.
Exactly. Yeah. And then it's fun and exciting as well. The journey becomes so much more fun if the person is able to reciprocate the energy that you're putting in.
Yeah, you guys are like risking it together and it's exciting and it's like this new adventure. So as we said before, you've been like working and just doing everything very tech savvy since you were very young. What is one advantage that you find and one disadvantage being such a young entrepreneur?
Okay. Yeah. So the advantage that I think I have is I can take a lot more risks than someone who is in his 20s. I can literally empty my bank account in something I believe in, and I know I have like a home to come back to. I can take bigger risks, be it financially or even otherwise, because I know that I have enough time to learn from it. So that I can take far bigger risks. But in terms of a limitation with being a young entrepreneur is, and I'm sure you've heard this before, but it's difficult to get people to take you seriously. And it's a challenge that we face a lot. And I know fellow young entrepreneurs who really face the same issue as well. That you'd go, you'd give a presentation, they'd be like, okay, that's cool, but how's school going? And it is but it is far more difficult for us to actually convince them that we're dedicated to what we're doing, we really believe in this, and we're going to stick to it. And that's why we, for the most part, we haven't looked at the traditional funding options. We've explored them, we have received offers, but yeah, we just find our own ways to keep the boat afloat. So
I mean, as long as you find your own way, I think that's even more impressive. And the fact that you don't need to depend on anyone is a very comforting feeling. But the fact that I really do hear that a lot, that that's the disadvantage, that people don't take you seriously. But I also think that it's a disadvantage for a short amount of time because, they might not take you seriously, but once you start talking and once they see what you're doing and they're just like, okay, I'm going to eat my words and I'm not going to act like this again because I'm judging someone on their age and I wasn't supposed to.
yeah.
So I think that at least it's a disadvantage. It's a temporary disadvantage.
That's true.
At least I hope so. So what is you being very tech savvy? I'm sure that you have something I haven't heard of. What is a tech tool that you can't go without? Any website or app or whatever?
Okay. I'm gonna name two. So one of them is the Arduino boards. I have one, so I'm just gonna put it up. There's this Italian company that makes these open source microcontrollers. They come in all shapes and sizes, and almost all of my projects have some version of them. So you take away Arduinos from the world, I'm gonna be like a headless chicken. So that's completely important. The programming software, the IDE that comes with them, and the boards and the microcontrollers themselves, they're super important to me because that's what I use to prototype everything that I work on. And the second tool would be, I'm sure you've heard of this. It's called Figma. It's a design tool.
Yep, we use Figma at UpNext too.
Yeah. So you know that it's great. It's super powerful. It's super useful, and whatever projects, whatever app or website, even for Tangle, everything that we're working on, we first make a wireframe on Figma. It really helps us visualize what you're doing and work together on it as a team. So the collaborative features, they're just awesome. So those two for sure.
Yeah, very comfortable. The fact that I have this like endless whiteboard that I can put anything and everything on it, and it always makes sense.
Yeah, even presentations for school, after a certain point, I stopped using PowerPoint altogether, and I was just sticking to Figma, even for those.
And which entrepreneurs inspire you the most these days? Who do you have your eye on?
I mean, the obvious, like I follow Elon Musk a lot. Like I'm such an Elon fanboy because he's an engineer and I think I'm an engineer as well. So more than the others, I feel I can relate best to him, and that's why I really follow him a lot. And yeah, I think I'm just gonna name him. He's the one person who I really look up to. And actually, Gary Vee, uh, he's someone who's really inspirational. Like if there is a day where I don't feel like getting out of bed or like doing what I'm supposed to, I just turn on the Gary Vee video and within 5 minutes I'm charged up for the rest of the day.
Like full of motivation. Yeah, these are great names. I mean, they really are big people in the industry. I mean, Elon Musk is like God, and just people just love what he's doing. And he seems like a really cool guy. He's not like your average businessman.
That's true. Yeah.
And
I think
no, sorry.
I think his ability to like pull a crowd, like people are excited about what he does, and I don't think any of the other entrepreneurs, like at least like the big ones, are really able to do that. They just find him to be like a cool guy.
Yeah.
So I like him.
Yeah. It's just popular to like him, but you go into more specifics knowing what you know, so it feels like it's even more impressive. So you work with, you have probably a bunch of different teams for the different things that you work on, and you already said you have other co-founders that work with you. So which trait of yours do you feel is your weakest and you need to outsource it with another teammate or maybe a platform that does it for you?
I think this is it's probably something I really wish I was better at was I feel if you have like a relatively bigger team, you need to constantly follow up with people. It does it is something that they need to do. So like we'd assign deadlines for the project based on like a Gantt chart of when we need things completed, but sometimes we need to like follow up with them to make sure I need to like make sure that they're completing this on time. But if my attention's somewhere else, I might not have done that. And I feel that is something that if I was better at, it would really help. Being so like if there was a tool that could send out this constant reminders to them and let me know that they haven't submitted it yet either, that is something that would really help me.
Yeah, tell them to tell me to not forget.
Yeah, basically something like that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we have so many organization tools and platforms nowadays that you can easily use, but also the fact that you need to check those is something we forget, right? So yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah.
So let's say I am an average teenager. I'm looking to build my startup and I have $100. What or how or where would you tell me to use this money, if at all?
See, that's a very specific question. um, um, I mean, I'm obviously not going to ask you to hire your friends with it. That's a bad idea. But it depends a lot on what you're trying to accomplish with your startup. So if you're trying to build a hardware startup that's going to need you to fabricate something, I would say keep all of the money for fabrication. Um, use it to so instead of buying tools with the $100, I would say use the $100 to subscribe to a makerspace and go there and work with the tools and parts that they provide. If you're building a hardware startup, because that's the best way to um, actually prototype what you're building. Go to a makerspace, um, and so that's for the hardware. But if you're trying to build a software startup, then keep the money. I don't think you need it initially. Almost all tools, be it AWS or Google Cloud Services, if you're trying to start a startup, they give you quite a lot of credits around. I think AWS gives you 1,000 credits. Even IBM Watson gives you about 1,000 credits, $1,000 worth of credits for free for you to use. So Unless you plan to buy a domain and get hosting for it, use the money for that. But other than that, just keep it. It might be required for you to like get a virtual server or something down the line. So mostly those
Okay,
stuff. Yeah.
well, I will take your word for it because you've had a pretty creative way of funding what you do until now. So I'm sure that
Yeah.
the idea is foolproof.
Yes.
Okay, so we have two bonus questions for you.
Okay.
How
All right.
important do you feel it is for young entrepreneurs such as yourself to think about social change when creating a business?
Um, I think it is really important, and I think there's two ways to look at this as well. First one being, if you're really having an impact on the society, on the people around you, it's going to be that much easier for you to grow your business as a young entrepreneur compared to like say you're going to start a traditional business. It's not going to be that easy for you to grow because you probably don't have as much funds as someone who's been in the industry for a while, for someone older. So if you have a social cause behind your project, it's going to be that much easier for you to grow. Secondly, it's your responsibility towards the world that you need to think of, like so I like to think of this as like the net change, right? So when you come into the world and from when you're leaving, what is the net change that you're going to have? Is it going to be something positive? Are you going to have a positive impact on the people and the society around you, or is it going to be something negative where you just made a whole bunch of money? If you made like say even millions or billions or whatever, but you're a terrible person who's had horrible like who's had absolutely no impact in the society, but you've harmed the environment in some way. But have you really accomplished anything? So it is, I feel, like a moral obligation, not just for someone young, but for any entrepreneur to think about how he's giving back to make sure we're leaving with a net positive change.
That is very true. I mean, if you're already going to put something out there in the world, you want it to have a good impact, even if it's just for a few people. It's something that we want to always be there. I mean, we can't just stay the way we are. We need to move
Yeah.
forward and not back.
Yes, that's true, and it's very important.
Mhm. Okay, last question. Let's
Yeah.
see if it's some people would say it's easy, some would say it's hard. If you could have any superpower in the world, what would you pick?
Uh, I have been asked this question a couple of times before, and honestly, the answer is different every time. It's very,
It
it's a
depends on
circumstantial.
how you feel.
Yeah, but at the time, it literally changes every time. But give me a minute, let me think about this. So if I could pick any superpower, um, I, I would want a superpower where I can like just someone stay someone. I think a situation where I can ask questions and a lot of them, but they're really right and meaningful ones. Because I feel this is what's most important, even for entrepreneurs or young change makers, or whatever. It's important that you're asking the right questions. Because if you're asking the right questions, then you know what you're working towards. You know what you're finding an answer to. So if I just had the ability to be able to be able to ask the right questions in the situation or even otherwise, I feel it would that would be something I'd really appreciate. Being able to know the answers to that would be a plus, or being able to like be invisible or see through walls. I like that too. Mostly the first part. Yeah.
So asking the ultimate questions, like being the best interviewer ever.
Not necessarily interviewer, but I
Yeah, of
would say,
course not. But
yeah, but
whatever is in front of you, you know what you have to ask, whether it's like a
yeah,
thing
exactly.
or a person.
Yeah, or a situation or a circumstance. You should know exactly what are you supposed to ask. Yeah, and
That
I
is
love that power.
that's a new one. I don't think we've heard that here yet. I do always find that young entrepreneurs that I talk to, pick a superpower that is productive for them, something that will help their business or help them learn faster or know more or sleep less or something that will help them. So I'm guessing that that's the direction that we're taking here, because knowing to ask any question in any situation seems like you are the hustler in the room, the storyteller, the one that knows how to get people's attention, which is what a lot of entrepreneurs do. So it was great getting to know you and what you've been doing. I think that this is just, it's just the tip of the iceberg. I know that you've built so much and gone through a lot and continue building. So I can't wait to see what you do next. And I hope we can talk soon.
Thank you. Hope so too. It was great speaking with you as well.
Thank you.